right, we will call the Ways and Means
Or give you some more room.
hearing together. Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Congratulations.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy.
Hi, here.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad.
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Chairman Ballmer.
Present.
7 present, you have 4.
Thanks. We will hold item 3 till the end of the meeting for excused aldermen. We move for approval of the minutes of the October 2nd meeting. Do
I move we approve the minutes of the October 2nd meeting.
Second.
Okay. Roll. Please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Chairman Ballmer.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
All right, thank you. I'll be handling Alderman Roddy's bill, so we'll do that. Alderwoman Davis, you have 2 bills. Is there one you'd like to take first? You have a crowd of people here. So whichever, we have 98 and 113, so whichever one you'd like to go with first, we'll go.
Just go ahead and do 98 first.
Okay.
Okay.
You have, start at your leisure.
Okay, would you like me to move to the front?
If you,
I feel comfortable where I am.
that's fine with me. The TV camera can see everyone. Remember, smile, folks.
That's
We are.
right.
That's right.
You're being
That's
YouTubed.
That's right.
right. Okay, so, for whatever reason, I don't see 98.
What line?
I see 85. I see 112.
You need here?
Here, you want one?
Here, I've got it. Marlene, here.
I got the bill, but
Yeah.
it's,
There's the summary. And I got it. Oh, there you go.
here we go.
Keep it.
So, this is a long-awaited project, Board Bill number 98. And the purpose of the bill is to approve the Olive West Community Improvement District. It's a SID, and it's a portion of the 37 and 3800 blocks of Olive Street. And all of it is in the 19th Ward. If you've driven that area, especially if you're going down Vendor, north or south, you see all the construction that's going on there. It is adjacent to the Kappa House. It has, it is probably one of the most studied developments and contemplated developments of the era. I was on the original committee that talked about this 22 years ago. And we are finally here, and I'm happy to see this. The bill authorizes the creation of the Olive West SID, and the district has the appropriate construction of this SID in place, which the main components of that is knowing what the political subdivision includes, ratifying the findings of the blight area, and looking at the district looking at the district and public purpose to look at the remediation and stuff that's needed. The Grand Center area, as you know, has advanced and have been in a mode of redevelopment for a number of years. That's included all empty buildings in that area. These 2 blocks between Spring and Vendor are the last major things that need to be done. The Wolfner Library is a significant building there, has been abandoned since 1970. We still have a single-family home there that is going to remain, and a lot of you all know Matthew Foggy. So what I'd like to do is ask Bill to come over and talk to us a little bit.
So you can pull that one chair around there if you want.
Oh, okay, will do.
Stay seated.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Bill Keeling. I'm an attorney for Thompson Coburn Law Firm representing Olive West Properties. which is the owner of all the properties in this area. And the purpose of this SID is basically to try to provide some incentive to Olive West for what they've managed to finally pull together and get done, which is frankly redoing this whole block and the whole area in there. They will still, Olive West will be still making a major, basically, subsidy to the project to the tune of, we estimate, $8.7 million is what they're basically putting in, just as a kind of because. So that's what this SID does. The area, so that's basically what it
Okay.
functions. Happy to answer any questions anybody would have.
Alderman Vaccaro, any questions of the sponsor? No. Alderman Howard?
No questions.
Okay. Alderwoman Murphy?
No question. I'm glad to see that you're renovating the library building.
Yes.
You know, instead of tearing it down. That's exciting. It's a beautiful building.
Yeah, it'll be incorporated into the whole
into the
project.
Okay,
Um,
that's nice. No questions.
All right. Alderman Muhammad?
Yeah, I don't think this is a good idea. I'm kidding. No question, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Oldenburg?
Is this just the library, or are there other buildings? I'm sorry.
No, it's about a...
How many buildings are we talking?
Well, eventually, there'll be built 12 new single-family homes and 5 two-family
I
homes
see.
on the south side,
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
and 10 new on the north side, and then there'll be an apartment building at Vanaventer and Olive there. And this will greatly help. There's a pretty nice residential block just south, Westminster,
Yeah.
which has somehow survived everything, and this should anchor that and really help that residential block and build in the residential. This has been envisioned, as the Alderwoman said, going back a long, long time. It was included in the redevelopment plan for Cardinal Ritter High School. So that's been built now for quite some time,
Right.
but they've finally been able to
That's how
put it
long you've
together.
been working on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I have no questions. I went through it, so Alderman Davis, you're welcome to close.
So, as I stated before, this project will give us the opportunity to have some closure and with great enhancement to the balance of that Grand Center area, and I ask for your favorable approval.
And with that, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass Board Bill 98 out with a do-pass recommendation.
Okay.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection, previous roll. We pass Board Bill 98 with a do-pass recommendation. All you folks that are here for that are welcome to exit the building if you're here for that.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Have some chairs over there, gentlemen, if you'd like to get rid of those. Oh, I'd rather, some of them, I just don't like people behind me. All right. Okay, Alderman Davis, we'll take up 113.
So Board Bill number 113 is, let me see it. Oh, I see it, okay. So, Board Bill number 113 is to establish a community improvement district for Grand Center. The district will be comprised of properties owned by 39 separate property owners over an area of 10 blocks, and will be basically bounded by Spring Avenue on the west, Olive Boulevard on the south, kind of zigzags a little bit for a border on the east of Delmar, and on the north, it goes right behind Spring there. We also have, looking at this, within those boundaries of the artistic and cultural district, you have different venues for office space, hotels, residential buildings, restaurants, and other commercial buildings. And under the terms of this petition, which has been adopted by the board that was established for the district, we will have an ordinance that will be effective for 10 years. Now, this district has the authority and powers granted by a SID Act to look at providing services and improvements for security, cleaning, maintenance, infrastructure improvements, and those other things that are voted on and guided by that district's board. They anticipate the services will cost approximately $350,000 to $400,000. And as many of you know, there had been a SID in place for 10 years prior to this. And it was anticipated that they were going to try to do a new structure. For those of you who were here before and know, we did separate out the whole SID, I guess it was about 5 to 6 years ago. And so there's a smaller SID that operates in those boundaries for those small businesses, and that's a sales tax SID. And so nobody's going to be affected in that smaller area for the smaller businesses. That remains the same. It remains independent. We also know that this has been an area that's been well maintained and has been very successful in making sure that the things that the people need in that area has been taken care of. So, if you have had an opportunity to look at the bill, you can see the names of the members on page 6 of the board and the terms for serving. And if we have a representative that would like to speak from the board, feel free to come forward now.
Anyone present that cares to speak on Board Bill 98?
Who's going to speak on behalf of?
Of the district SID, yes, Grand Center Board.
I'm the executive director of Grand Center Inc. I'm happy to do so.
Please come forward.
Yeah, if you please sit at the table and give us your name for the record, because you're being filmed.
My name is Rich Simmons. I'm the executive director of Grand Center Inc. Grand Center Inc. has been a convening body in this and will not hold a board seat on the board for the SID. But we were instrumental in bringing groups together, both not-for-profit businesses and residents together to discuss a plan that seemed fair for all parties involved. As a result, we were able to end up with a combination of assessment and sales tax that would not have an undue burden on any particular type of business or entity. The petition that's presented is that compromise. It was come together over the course of about a year of conversation in which this group was meeting roughly twice a month. The group was open to the public, and numbers of people were invited. We had a core group that was constantly there, and some others that came in as particular topics interested to them came up. Once we put the petition out to the public, we got 80% of valuation in the district in favor of it, and 60% of ownership was in favor of it. It covers many of the things that the old SID did, but it also adds the fact that we will be able to add beautification and larger infrastructure projects, in large part because we will raise approximately $100,000 to $150,000 more a year with this new SID. This SID, I think, will also help the district improve its profile within the community. We got a number of wonderful developments around us, and we want to be sure that we're always remembered in the same ways. The proposed board structure is going to be bound by the sunshine laws as well, and will be open to the public so that we can continue to have the voices of the community heard to help affect the direction that we go. And we just ask for your support on this. Are there any other questions?
All right, Alderman Carl, any questions of the sponsor or the speaker?
No question.
All right, Alderman Howard.
What is the tax rate that you're levying on the property?
In terms of the assessment or the sales tax?
The assessment.
The assessment,
on the property.
16 cents per square foot on the lot and 26 cents per square foot on the first floor square footage.
Okay.
So that then, because there are a number of lots that are undeveloped, it didn't put an undue burden on those who have not yet developed the property.
Okay. So, in the description, it says pay-as-you-go SID. I don't understand what that means.
I think I will refer that to a lawyer, one of our lawyers.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind giving the seat up, sir, we'll let him come up and,
Yeah, I'm like, what is that? What does pay-as-you-go SID mean? Because
please state your name for the record.
My name is Scott Riley. I'm from Cook & Riley, and we are the law firm representing Grand Center Inc. and the stakeholders in the effort to form the SID. I think by pay-as-you-go SID, what we wanted to convey was we're not using the stream of SID revenues to borrow against to do something today, like create a development fund to do a big project today. Rather, as the money comes in on a yearly basis, we're going to spend it on operating costs. So
Okay.
we're not creating we're not securitizing the CID revenues, we're just going to spend them as we receive them.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
wondering if it meant that yeah, it clarifies, thanks.
Any further
Okay.
questions, Alderman? Does that conclude
No,
your questions?
no,
Okay.
no more questions.
All right, Alderman Murphy, any questions?
Yeah, I was asked and answered on that one. So basically, you're reestablishing a SID that was already there.
Yes, the other SID expired.
I noticed that,
Yes.
and so you were reestablished one, and it seems like you certainly did your due diligence with all the people that are up there, so that's what matters to me, so that everybody had a spot, yeah, was able to speak and everything, so that's fine. Thank you. No question.
Can I address that issue?
Well, one second, we have to,
Okay.
Mr. Riley, if you wouldn't mind giving the chair, you'll have to have the seat, and if you wouldn't mind giving the chair. Have to sit down and state your name, sir, for the record.
Okay, my name is Eric Lujan. I'm actually a major property owner in Grand Center, and basically this meeting is the first meeting that I've had concerning this. The gentleman just stated that there was a year and a half of meetings twice a month. I was never informed of that, ever. So I'm here today as a property owner in the district that has never been informed that there was a SID that was going to take place, and I wasn't involved in this process whatsoever. Now, that's one of the points that I want to make. The second point is that we have to make sure that if we have business owners into the district, people who are operating, at least we're not going to have business owners who are operating illegally. So if I'm required to collect 1% sales tax, then the gentleman sitting behind me who has a business in our district, he's going to have to be required to do the same thing. He doesn't seem to think that he needs to have a business license to operate a events facility, and I keep telling him that he does. So let's make sure that if we're going to pass this, that at least we tell the truth here, that everyone was involved in this, because I wasn't. I don't know anything about this.
So are you a new business owner there? You were not under the other SID?
No, I have been there since 2010. I've been a property owner since 2004 in the neighborhood.
And you were not aware of the SID?
Well, no, the previous SID we were.
That's what, well.
But this SID is a little bit different than the SID
Right.
that took place before. So my question becomes, why was I left out of the loop, Ms. Davis? Because I understand that I have an older person that I'm supposed to contact when I have a problem, but I cannot contact her because no one provides me with any information whatsoever. Now, I will tell you that I was contacted approximately maybe 30 days ago from Mr. Jones, and he informed me that we might have a SID that might take place in the district, but that's a long ways off. But as far as I know, he's just someone in the neighborhood that doesn't know anything. So I was never so I just want to get the point across that I was never informed. This is all new to me coming here today, and that's why I'm here, because I'm trying to find out who the driving force is behind this SID today, because I have no clue. So I would tell everyone who's sitting here, it would be unfair and unjust to just accept the executive director's word that the community was involved in this, because I can tell you that I wasn't, and I own 2 properties in Grand Center, and I don't want to be treated less than anyone else in this room or any other citizen in this city. So that's what I would have to say.
So let's talk about process.
Well, if you, please take your other seat. Real quickly, so you've started this process a year and a half, are these meetings posted, done online, or mailings, or how does the
What
process
we ask
go?
is the people who had primarily been involved in the board, the prior SID, to begin to outreach to their neighbors and invite people to come to this. As we encountered people and talked about the SID, we invited them to meetings. I will admit that I've not spoken directly to this gentleman. However, we did have public meetings that were posted in which we sent out mailings both in March and May to everybody.
Can you explain where you got the mailing list from?
We took that information from the assessor's office
Thank
so
you.
that we
So
were
everybody
looking at
got
per
notified.
parcel. That was sent out by mail, and they were invited to meetings that we held at the Sheldon. They graciously provided their space for us. And we had spirited discussion. At the time that we brought everyone in together, there were questions. There were some unease with the direction we were headed. We took that information back to the committee and then began to address those concerns and invited people continuing at these meetings, that those that showed up at the public meeting, to be involved in the process.
All right, so there were public meetings that were posted. Okay. Excuse me, sir. One more outburst, and you'll have to leave the room. No one speaks unless they're asked and sitting atop of this. This is a public meeting. If you have something to say, you're welcome to take the chair and give your name publicly and be on the record. Would you like to do that, sir?
Not at this time.
Okay,
Perhaps I would.
Again, just answer the questions you're asked. Thank you very much, sir. If you don't want to take a seat, please be quiet. All right. Marlene, is there anything you'd like to, anyone else you have to speak on this?
I'd like for the attorney to come back and talk a little bit more about the ongoing process, because it was extremely lengthy. And I do know that there were so many meetings and so many conversations, not only with this process to establish this, but also the current smaller SID interacted as well to give their input.
Mr. Roddy, would you please take that? Take the hot seat, because I'm sure the committee would like to know the exact process of when
Because there's a lot of detail to it. It's not just something somebody wakes up and decides to do one day.
Sure. Again, my name is Scott Riley. I'll say that our firm, Cook & Riley, originally got involved with the effort in February or March of 2019. We were then invited to come to this series of meetings that were both hosted by Grand Center twice a month, and then the public meetings at the Sheldon, in order to explain, what a SID is, how it's funded, what it can do, how it would be formed, and help, I think, drive the consensus that ended up being the petition that we're reviewing today. Marlene's absolutely right, and after we had a petition that was agreed to by the stakeholders, it was filed with the city register, then reviewed by the city assessor, the city councilor. We filed the board bill with Marlene, and she helped us draft that. We then, under the SID Act, were required to send out certified mail, return receipt notices to all the property owners in the district, informing them that this hearing was going to be held. So the processes that are in place and driven by the CID Act were all followed to make sure that all the notices and all the mailings were done. Taking a step back to speak to Marlene's point that we also involved the stakeholders of the adjoining Grand Center 2 CID, they were really sensitive that they did not want funding through a special assessment. They only wanted funding through a sales tax. We had tried to work with them to see if we could come to a compromise and maybe include them in this new CID. We couldn't do that, and everybody agreed that was fine, and we agreed that we'd have a cooperative arrangement going forward. But we specifically, didn't want to bring that group of property owners within this proposed SID if they didn't want to be there. So I'd be happy to take any questions. I think I do have a good history of the process. Hopefully I gave you a good summary there, but I'd be happy to answer any
All right,
detailed
we'll
questions.
go through the committee. Alderman Carr, any questions? Mr. Riley or Marlene? No? Okay. Alderman Howard?
The process is, I guess, a question. I mean, we did a SID, and everybody gets a mailing and gets a vote, correct?
Correct.
So, and the vote's based on the majority of those people that return their ballots and...
The state statute requires a 50% majority from both a assessed valuation perspective and a per capita ownership perspective. The one twist I think that we had here that maybe a bit different than some CIDs, there's a significant number of not-for-profit property owners in the CID. So the way the statute works is those owners can opt into the CID by affirmatively voting yes, they want to be a part of it. If they choose not to, they're just kind of ignored as owners for purposes of computing the percentages, and that's the policy of the assessor's office and the city councilor's office.
Okay. Any further questions?
No more.
All right.
Will I be able to?
Well, one second, we're going around, so this is a legal process. We're going through the committee. They're asking questions. Mr. Riley, I'll ask anyone if they want to speak afterwards. Alderman Murphy, any questions, Mr. Riley? Alderman Spencer, any questions, Mr. Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Mr. Riley.
The summary here indicates that there are 39 separate property owners. At the public hearings, how many of those 39 property owners participated, and were there records kept indicating how many were participating in the public meetings?
And these are going to be estimates. There weren't minutes taken. I know at the meeting that would have been held twice a month, there was a core group of 12 to 15 property owners that were there virtually every time. We also had other property owners that visited, like Rich Simmons had indicated, when there was a topic of interest, they might come for a meeting. The town hall meeting, or the town hall style meetings that were noticed up through mailings at the Sheldon, that crowd was very large. I mean, we held it at the Sheldon, so we had space. So out of that 39 owner group, there had to be 25 plus.
And what kind of notifications did you send out? Was it just one letter, or was there several?
I wasn't, since that wasn't part of the CID formation, right? That's not driven, that notification is not driven by the CID Act. I think the director of the Grand Center Inc. indicated it was a mailing
Just
to all
one,
the property owners.
Just a single mailing?
That's accurate.
And can you describe the difference in the CID, this current CID versus the last CID that would generate the additional $100,000, or what might be of concern to property owners?
So the difference was the old CID was only funded through a special assessment. This CID has both a special assessment and a sales tax.
Okay.
Can I add one quick thing, though? In order to make sure that some businesses wouldn't be inordinately impacted by that, we came up with a very unique assessment methodology where if you were a business that generated retail sales tax for the CID, you would get a credit for that CID sales tax to be applied against your assessment, so you weren't basically getting hit twice. But just the way the property owners and the businesses that are located on the property shook out, that sales tax was going to create that incremental amount of revenue.
So the property tax assessment remained the same with that $16.26, and then you added the...
Yes.
That was in place before, and then you added the sales tax, which, shaking it all things out.
Yeah, we added the sales tax and that crediting mechanism.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Riley.
Alderman Mohammed, any questions of the?
No questions, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Alderman Oldenburg.
A couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the area-wide TIF still in place, or has that been unwound in Grand Center?
It expired.
It expired. Okay, so that's been unwound. Great. And then secondly, maybe just a few comments that I think everyone in this committee is familiar with the legal process that's surrounded with community improvement districts, that by certification everyone's contacted. Additionally, this is maybe editorializing, but Grand Center Inc. has been in existence since the 90s, correct? Yes. And I think their reputation speaks for itself in terms of their credibility, and I would be saddened, I think, of what that area might look like if Grand Center Inc. hadn't started and established what they have, and that their credibility among a majority of property owners and businesses in that area goes a long way, is what I will say. So I certainly plan to support the community improvement district. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Riley?
No, I'm good, Chairman.
Okay, Marlene, is there anyone you have to speak farthest?
None at this moment, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, if you wouldn't mind giving me a seat up. Would you like to speak again?
I want to just be clear about something. I'm not against a SID, and I'm not against improving any neighborhood in this city. What I'm against is, and I understand the gentleman has stated that Grand Center has a lot of credibility. Perhaps I don't, sitting here. But I'm going to tell you that it wasn't an open and fair process that took place. I'm expecting that you all are going to vote for the SID. But the only reason that I'm here is to say that it should have been more of a democracy, the process that took place. I wasn't informed, and I was purposely not informed, and I can tell you that. And that might be a conclusion that you might say that I've reached, but I wasn't informed of the SID, and it was purposely done. So, I'm just going to tell you that, we've heard some statements that were not true today, but I'm sure that these attorneys and the executive director, in your eyes, might be a little bit more credible than I am. And maybe the folks in Grand Center, they might be a little bit more credible. But I'm going to explain to you, or what I'm telling you is that it wasn't a fair process. As a property owner, I would have expected to be informed. And I wasn't even going to speak at this meeting. I just wanted to come to find out who was driving this today. But when I heard the lies that have been told, I felt compelled to just kind of come here and just go on record to say that, you know, they're not as credible as as the gentleman has stated. So if anyone has any questions for me, that's fine, but if you don't, that's, you know.
Alderman McCarroll, questions of the speaker?
Okay, maybe one. So if I'm listening to you, and I'm kind of sick, so if I look out of it, but if I'm listening, you're fine with the SID, but you weren't with the process. Would it make any difference if, and I don't know what the board would do, but if we held this a week, would there be changes you make in the SID that are something you think that would influence it? Or if it came back a week from now, would it still be the same? And it seems like you're fine with it, you're just not happy that you were left out of the process, which I am. But even if they sat back down and included you in the process,
I think
would that make any difference in the SID?
You know, I haven't really had an opportunity to know what the options were because I wasn't included. I wasn't privy to any of the meetings that took place. No one ever informed me or asked me how I felt about anything. And that's my problem. So I don't know if this SID is right for myself or if it's right for anyone because I wasn't given the opportunity to even take a look at it. And I don't know what the other options were.
I mean, that was pretty much it.
Mr.
All right.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
He's going to go around.
Okay, Alderman Howard, any questions of the speaker?
I'm Alderman Howard.
I was going to tell her to be quiet, but that's it.
I guess my question is, you didn't receive any of the mailings?
I received the only mailing that I received was from the law firm informing me that there was a meeting today in the Kennedy Room at 10 a.m. and that's where we went.
But you received no meetings on the vote, to vote?
Nothing whatsoever.
No information on that?
No information whatsoever. The first time that I found out about there was even a SID was when the gentleman sitting behind me called me about 30 days ago and told me that they've been in discussion. But my question, you know, not to him, but to the other property owner was, well, why weren't we involved in this process? If you've been discussing this for a year and a half, why didn't you contact me and inform me that you're actually even thinking about a SID and discuss it with me and see how I think of what I thought about it?
Are you sure that your property has the right address on it,
When you
according to the assessor's office?
Oh, definitely. We receive all the bills from the assessor's office. So I would think that if I receive the bills, then I should receive everything else.
Interesting. Okay.
Alderman Murphy?
I don't know if this is appropriate. Do you have any reason why you think you would have been excluded? What would have been the purpose of that, is my point? To
Okay.
exclude just you?
Sure. I don't want to taint anyone in the room, but we've had issues in the problem with the Grand Center. We're not from St. Louis. I'm actually from Houston. I'm from Texas. And since purchasing the property in 2004, we've had nothing but problems. There's been this battle for some reason that, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but unfortunately, this year we were forced, not because we wanted to, but we were forced to file a federal lawsuit against the city of St. Louis and the Grand Center, Inc. So we're naming parties. The two parties are the Grand Center and the city of St. Louis. Ms. Davis is very familiar, or should be, with that lawsuit. So to answer your question, that's probably part of the reason why.
When you bought the property in 204, you said you bought the property in 204,
Correct.
and you were aware that there was a SID in place then? I would assume.
That, I don't, to be quite honest with you, if I had to go back and say, I would say yes, I would have had to have been aware that there was a SID in place. But coming from Houston, you would have to understand that maybe that the SID wasn't what I thought it should have been back then. It wasn't necessarily community improvement development as it's titled. There was a lawsuit that was back then that took place because of the
From you? From
no,
your
not
party?
from, no,
Oh.
from a different party. When we first purchased the property, there was already a lawsuit in place, and it was regarding how the funds were spent from, I don't believe it was the SID, but there was already a lawsuit in place back then.
Thank you. No more questions.
All right. Spencer, any questions of the speaker?
Well, I just have a suggestion. I mean, I think it's unusual, obviously, to have a property owner come down. We consider CIDs often, but it does sound like, I mean, I'm familiar with the process. The notifications are sent in a certified manner, so I would like to make the suggestion that we verify that the property owner here was in fact contacted by certified mail at the appropriate time, and that given that we now know each other and have met each other, that there would be a concerted effort by the executive director to communicate with Mr. Lugan here moving forward, so that there could be some direct invitations to meetings moving forward. And that's really just a suggestion, and I hope that we can clarify that notification and communication moving forward. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Mohammed, any questions of the speaker?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Oldenburg, any questions of the speaker?
I have no further questions, thank you.
Okay. All right. I have no questions for you, sir, if you might take your other seat. Marlene, is there anything you need to, anyone else you to speak, to address
Mr.
this?
Chairman, I would like to add a little bit to what Mr. Lugan already
Please take the seat and give us your
Thank
name.
you. Excuse me.
Warn you, it's not very good.
Yeah, actually, I was looking for water, so I apologize.
Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Francesco Russo, and I co-own 2 parcels in Grand Center with Mr. Eric Lugan, who spoke before me, before I. We own 3722 Randall Square, which is an empty lot, unimproved, and we also own 3716, which has an improvement on it. We came in 2004 to this city from Houston. We decided to invest in this city, our own money. We purchased those properties which were blighted and decrepit. We spent all our money, our own funds, to improve them and to rehab them completely. We then opened a business which we're operating out of those properties. However, as Mr. Lugan has already stated, ever since we came to this city to invest in this city, we have had nothing else but problems. We have been dragged through court over and over again. And we did learn around 2005, 2006, there was a SID in Grand Center in existence, although coming from Houston, where we operate a little bit different, we weren't quite familiar with what a SID was. But we didn't really dispute anything. We just paid into it because we were told that it was for improvement and upkeep of the neighborhood, and that was good with us. We did like that idea. Over time, we realized that in Grand Center, there's a handful of rich property owners, very influential with the city, very influential with the state, politically and financially, who don't really care for a democratic process, whether there is a SID to be approved or established or anything else. They just act and operate as if they're the sole decision makers. And that comes, I'm just going to support what Mr. Lucian said, that we were never even informed that there was going to be a process for the reestablishment or renewal of this SID. We knew that the old one had expired, and after witnessing what had happened throughout the years with the old SID, we realized that it wasn't what it's supposed to be. It's just a fund to keep alive Grand Center Inc. and its employees, who basically don't bring much to the neighborhood. The neighborhood would support itself without the need for any semi-governmental entities like those ones. Private entities or private individuals like us would definitely go there, like we did, and invest their own funds. We upkeep and we clean our own properties, and to be honest, we clean the whole street. We're not satisfied with what the services supposedly provided by the SID. So this is just ancillary matters. But the fact that the real issue here is that we were not even informed, because as I said, this SID that has been in existence since the 90s, it's always been managed by the same handful group of people. There is no democracy. There's no opportunity for anyone else to have a word or to have any real saying or real decision in what happens into that neighborhood. It's always the same handful of people. The Fox, the Sheldon, the Pulitzer Foundation, and then there's also another handful of not-for-profit who, even though they don't put any funds into the pot, let's put it that way, they also exercise a great deal of political power. So this is what the SID, this is what the Grand Center is. The issue that we are bringing to your attention, to this committee attention today, is that the process was not followed. We were never informed. We were deliberately ignored. Everyone knows we're there. We were the first lodging facility in Grand Center. And we established that lodging facility with our own funds. We did not ask for one penny of any subsidies whatsoever, unlike all the other ones that have come after us. So everyone knows we're there, but yet they deliberately ignored us as we don't exist. The message that we have received is that we really don't want outside investors coming to this city trying to do something constructive. We have had nothing else but problem, ignored, and in a certain way tortured throughout these last 14 years. We have a pending lawsuit in federal court because we have established that Grand Center and the City of St. Louis, the assessor's office, Mr. Freddie Dunlap, who's no more the assessor, have conspired against us. That's a separate issue. It's in federal court. But it is somewhat related to the action that took place, the whole behavior that took place throughout the past year and a half, where this gentleman states here before you that everyone was informed, and we're here to testify that we were not. We were deliberately ignored. So I don't think that this SID that has been forced on people like us, and again, I'm not really prepared today. I'm not prepared to discuss the merits of the SID. I don't know, because I didn't have the time, I wasn't informed, and I couldn't educate myself on the SID Act. If I had been informed, I would have taken the time to educate myself on the SID Act, and I would be able today to establish, in my mind at least, whether or not the not-for-profit are just excluded as property owners, not counted as they didn't exist. In my mind, whether or not they pay into the SID, they're still property owners and they should be counted as far as ownership and as far as parcels count. So, but I cannot say that for certain because I wasn't given the opportunity to educate myself on the issue. So this process took place in the back rooms, in the dark, and not everyone was properly informed. The process was not followed as it should have. I don't think this should go through.
Any questions of the
Yeah, I
speaker?
do have a question.
Yes, please retain your seats, sir. Alderman Carl.
You have a certified letter in your hand, and it had to have come from the SID.
This came to inform us that there was going to be a meeting today downstairs into the Kennedy room. And we came just to see what this was all about and who were the drivers of this SID.
But I got,
Yes, sir.
I guess I got, the date on that is when?
This obviously is 15 days, according to the SID Act, we have to be informed 15 days before the hearing, and this came 15 days, here it is. It's
So they did follow the SID Act.
15 days for the meeting.
Have you,
We were never informed about all the process, the hearings, the meetings that took place to vote on the establishment of the SID. I understand, as the gentleman said, that it's been going on for a year and a half at the Sheldon, and the Sheldon is across the alleyway from us. We never knew anything.
what kind of business do you have there?
We have a small lodging facility, it's Grand Center Inn, and we also have an events facility. So we are a business, we've been there for quite a long time, way before many other businesses.
What's what, I mean, I just, that was what my, I'm done.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Howard, any questions of the speaker?
No question.
Thank you. Alderman Murphy, any questions?
No.
Alderman Spencer.
No questions.
Alderman Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to talk about your proposed government conspiracy
Well, that's a
you are
lawsuit that is pending.
purposely left out.
There is a lawsuit that is pending in federal court, and I just brought it in as an informative issue. It's not that I'm going to discuss the lawsuit in this setting. It's a lawsuit against Assessor Freddie Dunlap's office in the city and Grand Center Inc. Grand Center Inc., everyone knows that acts under the color of law because of, yeah, that's a case, again, I don't want to bore
So,
the people here with things that are not
So the letter that you
pertinent
have,
to
who
the
was
city.
it mailed from?
I'm sorry?
Who was the sender of the letter that you have?
This is a letter.
Who's the sender?
It is Cook and Riley, which informs us.
Okay, so if you got that letter, why have you not received any previous letters before?
Oh, can I answer that? I have never received any letters,
It just seems,
aside from this one.
it seems suspicious to me. It doesn't add up that you will receive this letter and no letter previously to this one.
And I agree with you. This shows that they did have the correct address. They knew that we exist. So they informed us of the last meeting, which is this one, to take place, but not of any other. So this is in agreement with you. They did have information on us. We exist, they have the correct address, and yet they never informed us prior to this last meting.
So all these meetings, as you said, it took place at the Sheldon Concert Hall, which
You have to come up here.
Yeah, thank you.
You can stand if you want, but you have to come up here.
Rich Simmons with
don't
Grand.
leave.
You can both
No,
stay.
don't leave.
You can both stay. You can stay.
There were 2 public meetings at the Sheldon for which we mailed to every property owner. And just to be clear, that was not sent by the lawyer's office, but sent by Grand Center Inc. We took that list again from the assessor's office. So that happened. All the other meetings were held at Grand Center Inc.'s offices. And again, we invited the public as we met the public. We had actually hoped that these gentlemen would engage us in the public meetings, that they could be invited to be part of the process. But that was not the case.
Thank you. And your business is right
I would
across
like to add to what the gentleman just said.
No, I'm talking to you now. So, and your business is directly across the street from when the public hearings took place?
Behind it, across the alley.
They're behind us. We're on Grandel, and they're on Washington, and they're parallel streets. There's an alleyway that divides the two streets, of course.
When did you find out exactly about the creation or the formation of this SID? What date did you exactly find out?
Well, I can't give you precise date, but just as Mr. Lugin has stated before, we were informed by one of our neighbors, who's sitting behind me, about 30 days ago. I would say almost 30 days ago.
Till today,
May I finish?
did you ever contact? You did. I finished. You gave me my answer.
Okay.
So from 30 days ago till today, did you ever contact Grand Center or the alderwoman to inquire about this SID? Or what's the date or first day of you?
Whatever
inquiring?
information or bits of information we might have received over the phone by any resident into the neighborhood was not sufficient to convince us that there was a formal process in place for a SID. We were informed that there might have been the desire to renew the old SID without any other specifics. So to us, that's just a bit of a gossip. There's no formal or there hasn't been a formal type of process to inform us of the scope of the SID, the criteria of the assessments, the details.
Well, thank you.
If we had been informed that there was actually a formal process ongoing, I would have taken the time to educate myself.
Absolutely, thank you. So there is a formal process.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
It's laid down in the state statute and in the city charter. And so you still didn't answer my question. It's yes or no. When you found out about this SID 30 days ago, did you ever contact Grand Center or the alderwoman to inquire about it? It's a yes or no.
You mean?
30 days ago when you
found
heard,
out about the SID.
have you contacted
So
anyone in
found
charge?
out, did you
Well,
contact?
I can't give you a yes or no because it's not
That means
a.
no. That means
He's
no.
asking whether you contacted Marlene or contacted
Okay,
anyone.
let me say the answer is no, but I want to add
Thank
to
you.
it.
No
I
further
want to add to
questions.
it.
He answered the question.
Okay, he answered the question. Alderman Oldenburg, you're next up.
I have no further questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So you stated that 30 days ago you found out about the SID, and that 15 days ago or so you got that letter, but in that time you've never, if I got a letter from a lawyer, the first thing I would do personally would contact a lawyer. I just stating, I'm not asking you a question at this moment. So if I get anything in the mail stating that something's going to happen or something say, I would contact the people who are in charge of this.
Yes.
And not wait 15 days or wait,
Well,
30 days.
let
So
me-
I'm not asking you a question yet, sir, if you wouldn't mind. Okay. And I appreciate your input when, as you tell, we're willing to listen to everything. I just want to state what I'm hearing is that you've got official notice and you heard a rumor almost a month ago, but the people who are in charge of this, you've not contacted them. Is that
That's
correct?
not what I said.
Well, have you ever contacted Ms. Davis about this?
That's not what I said.
Have you ever contacted Ms. Davis in regard to this?
Ms. Davis, we can never get in touch with her. She ignores us. And because she knows pretty well. She's somewhat a part in our lawsuit.
Have you made any attempt to, when you got a letter from a lawyer, did you make any attempt to contact a law firm?
Exactly, that's what I was trying to answer.
Did you contact them?
This law firm doesn't appear to have a website or anything. Do you have a website?
I'm sorry, I'll ask the questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. Mr. Riley, you have, you have a website, you have a phone number, you have,
We do not have a website, but with the contact information was included.
there's contact information, so there's a phone number in
We
there?
have tried to look up the law firm, and it didn't appear to be.
Their contact information would be a phone number in there?
There was phone numbers and
Did you attempt to email or phone them?
We went into the website, and there was
Again, did you attempt to, if their contact information is an email
May
or a
I-
phone number, did anyone make an attempt?
I'm sorry, you're asking me the question?
I'm asking
Both of
if you received a letter from a law and there's contact information, did you try to contact the law firm by the information they gave you to contact them?
Okay, the answer to your question is, I tried to look up the law firm.
But my question is, his contact information is a phone number or an email address?
I have to look and see.
Okay.
I don't know if it's there.
If it's in there, he sent you a registered letter saying to contact us with any questions with a phone number or an email address. Just assuming that everyone in the world has a website is not the way to do business. When you have a registered letter from a lawyer in your hands, I would contact the lawyer directly.
We all operate differently.
Well, then, I have no further questions. If anyone has no further
I was
questions,
just going
speaker.
to add one thing.
You have 30 seconds.
I have 30 seconds. The issue here, again, is not whether or not we contacted the law firm 2 weeks ago, informing us of this last meeting to take place. The issue is, were we ever informed throughout the year and a half by Brain Center, Inc., about the desire to establish a new seat?
I understand.
Now, the gentleman said that they have engaged people, but it sounds to me like the way he words it, informally, while passing, meeting them along the street. I'm sorry, may I ask him a question?
No, you may not, sir. And your 30 seconds is up. What I'd like to state is that Mr. Simmons has stated that you were, the Sheldon, there was mailing sent to them in regard to the Sheldon.
That is correct.
Okay.
He's stating that he sent us a mail, you send us a mail?
Again, don't ask him questions, sir. Mr. Simmons has stated on record that he has sent you letters in regard to the Sheldon meetings. All property owners from the assessors were sent to you.
I assume he has proof of that.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Simply, I want to just move on. His partner already said he's fine with the SID, they're not happy with the process.
Sure.
I would like to make a motion that we pass Board Bill 113 out with the due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll. Because we can debate this all day.
No, I understand. No, I was closing up in 5
And
seconds.
it's the process, not the...
Any objection, previous rule?
No,
Okay, she has no objection. All right.
I'm sorry, I just...
that's okay.
Okay, the matter's closed. It's been moved and seconded, and
The-
the floor is...
I mean, you said you have no problem with the SID, you have a problem with the process.
113 is
And to be
passed out
honest
with
with
due
you,
pass recommendation.
Until he started speaking, I was kind of on your side, but,
Okay.
you know, I mean...
Are we done?
Yes,
Yes.
that's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we will be taking up Board Bill number 18
Sorry, I
for Mr. Roddy.
got the wrong accent.
Well, then,
Since Mr. Roddy is out of town, I'll be handling this for him, and we have people, whoever's the lead speaker, please take the seat. This is 118, this is a petition to establish Newstead West Community Improvement District. It's Improvement District Day. All right, Joe, would you push it? Okay, and I'll let you handle this, sir. Please state your name and go through the particulars with this.
My name is Robert Droney. I'm an attorney with Smith Amundsen out of Clayton. This is the third public hearing today on the Community Improvement District. This one is a little bit different structurally. I just want to point that out. Is that SID Act provides for either a political subdivision or a not-for-profit. This SID is a not-for-profit, so the only authority it has is to impose a special assessment. And that's what the petition calls for. The not-for-profit entity, Newstead West Community Improvement District, has been formed with the Missouri Secretary of State, so it is an active not-for-profit entity. So that, just to put that up front to make sure everybody's clear, this is a little bit different formation. The process is the same, but the entity is going to be a little bit different. Actually, I think the downtown SID's a not-for-profit as well. So. This, in a nutshell, is essentially the SID will fund improvements to Vista and Newstead. And that's all that the SID revenues will be used for. There will be a special assessment that's imposed, and essentially what we're doing, this is in conjunction with a previous ordinance that the Board of Aldermen approved for tax abatement. So all we're going to do is take the tax abatement the amount of taxes that are abated, impose a special assessment in equal amount, and use that for public infrastructure improvements. So repaving the roads, sidewalks, and streetscape improvements. So none of the SID revenues will go towards any of the privately owned properties, all public improvements.
Okay. Alderman Carl, any questions of the speaker?
None.
All right. Alderman Howard?
No.
Alderman Murphy?
None, thank you.
Alderman Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I understand correctly, you're taking the abated portion of the property tax?
Of new, yeah, there's going to be like 50 new single-family homes, so the abated portion of those new improvements will be used to fund the streetscape improvements.
So are those 50 properties already tax abated?
They've been approved for tax abatement. We're actually going through the process right now, the application process with SLDC to get approved as the redeveloper. But the ordinance 70,730 approved those properties for abatement.
What is the total amount of abatement on an annual basis?
I'd have to go back and look at my numbers. It's 10-year abatement with it's not 100% abatement, but it's 15% for 5 years of pilot that would be paid. So, and the home prices are about $350,000. And so it's going to be the taxes based on the improvements of $350,000. So roughly you're talking $35,000.
For 50 homes?
Yeah, for
So
50
$35,000 each?
Well,
yeah.
yeah, with the residential rate, so yes, yeah, so probably about a fifth of that.
You have a sidekick there if you like. You have some numbers. If you'd like to introduce yourself,
yeah, sure.
sir.
Brian Pratt with Green Street, St. Louis. There's actually two components to the development, single-family homes, and then there's a proposed multifamily. Green Street's the proposed multifamily. So the abatement and the assessment would also apply to the multifamily. So we project the multifamily only, approximately $1.8 million in assessment proceeds. That would be the equivalent to the tax abatement over that 10-year period. And as Rob indicated, we as the multifamily developer will take on the responsibility through the SID to make those infrastructure improvements, and any improvements outside of the SID boundaries itself will be funded by us as the developer. So there will be more cost than just that $1.8 million funded as a part of the infrastructure improvements.
But 100% of the abatement, assessed abatements, will be captured with this?
Yes.
I just want to express some concern with this unusual structure. The tax abatements that are issued by the city are issued to facilitate development that would theoretically otherwise not occur without the abatement. And so therefore, the abatement is used as a tool to drive development that would otherwise not happen. If the taxes could be paid, they should be paid, in my view, to the whole of the city to provide infrastructure for the whole of the city, not those areas of the city that could withstand those $300,000 homes. And I just have some concerns that we're shifting what taxes would go to our school district and putting them into neighborhoods that are doing quite well. So I just want to express my concern about that in a general sense, because I would like to see this $1.8 million be spread throughout the city and infrastructure more generally speaking. It's an interesting concept, and one I applaud you for. It's a novel concept, but I just have some concerns about if we're unable to pay.
If I could address the.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I think you're kind of speaking to a but-for issue around the incentive, and I think in this case, the but-for is the condition of the current infrastructure is in such a dilapidated state of affairs that the private investment without an upgrade to the infrastructure is unlikely to follow. And so, rather than passing the abatement through directly to the developer to subsidize the private investment. In this case, it's a way to forward fund infrastructure that is critically needed to attract the private investment. And if the city were in a position to spend the $1.8 million today, we wouldn't need this structure, but that isn't the case based on the available funds. And so we have stormwater infrastructure needs, dilapidated alleys. I mean, I don't think the story is unique
Sure.
to this block. I'm sure it exists in all of your wards, but in this case, that's really the but-for test is the fact that we need to use the SID funds to repair the infrastructure in order to attract the private investment.
I really appreciate that clarification because I think you're right. So the SID funds would be specifically and only utilized for that infrastructure that the city is unable to provide as a base?
That's great. We'll street, sidewalk, curb gutter, stormwater, alley resurfacing, street light improvements.
Okay. I do really appreciate that clarification, and that helps me feel more comfortable with this concept. It does worry me somewhat that we're shifting money that would otherwise go to the school district into infrastructure, but I think that is a much more palatable explanation of what we're doing. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay, Alderman Muhammad is not present. Alderman Oldenburg, any questions of the speakers?
No questions.
All right. I have none. With that,
Mr. Chairman, there's a
Oh, is there someone?
public who's
I'm sorry.
We're getting ready to pass it out. You might hold it up.
Hi, my name is Sarah Wilson Mangapora. I am a resident of Forest Park Southeast. I have been very active in the community and know most of the partners from numerous community engagement meeting process prior to this specific CID proposal. This area, as Mr. Pratt mentioned, is in need of infrastructure improvements. My concern kind of reiterates what Kara Spencer was saying, that we're putting the power to decide into an unnamed board. The board is not part of the board bill, as far as I'm aware. And as a concerned resident, there are many other residents who feel that they have not been involved in the process. Yes, they were also provided a certified letter. We had a neighborhood association meeting 2 weeks ago in which some of the residents appeared to try and figure out what was going on. I'm not within the CID district, but I feel that it's my responsibility as a neighbor to just address that we are concentrating power to make decisions that affect the greater community within a very few people. And I think that this needs to be a transparent process. My recommendation at the last meeting that was held at the Park Central Development, Forest Park Southeast Development Committee was that any infrastructure improvements go before the neighborhood's infrastructure committee process to ensure that the decisions being made aren't going towards something that is actively benefiting only the developers and not the community as a whole.
All right. One second. Any questions of the speaker, Alderman Carl?
Well, just so you don't even live in this city?
I do not.
Okay. All right.
The SID is...
Alderman Davis had her hand, but you have this direct question you'd like to address.
I was just referring to the process and looking in the bill. The signature pages are in here for the property owners.
This bill actually does have a list of petitions and
Yeah,
signs.
and according to state statute, it requires a certain percentage of these people to sign off on it before we can even have a bill. So there has been input from the community.
As you can see in the packet, most of the signatures are from 3 entities.
But they own the property.
Yes.
Yeah,
Washington University owns Forest West Properties. Green Street Development, who has been developing the properties in question, and then...
There are a lot of individuals as well. It's a good mix. It really is. Nonprofit, for-profit, residential.
I
The
appreciate...
city has some property that we own. It's a very good representation of what's there.
I'm glad that you feel that way. I feel differently, but that's my personal opinion.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions, speaker? None? Okay. With that, we will Because what is, by the time this comes to us, everything in here has been done, by what we are supposed to see. We have a petition, we actually have the signed petition with this particular one, a list of the properties and the property owners, and their petitions with it. So at that point, if anyone has anything else to say, do you want something to
I
close?
just want to make one final comment.
Sure.
Ms. Mingapore, we actually met this Monday with the Park Central Development Infrastructure Committee, presented the infrastructure plan, intend to communicate with the neighborhood. So, we're also holding a community meeting next Tuesday at the suggestion and request of the neighborhood association. So, I just want to be upfront that we're trying to do our process for engagement at the direction of the neighborhood and various leadership. In the end, we're bringing new infrastructure and positive impact to the area.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll just add that I think most of the homes haven't been developed yet,
Sure.
so that there aren't really home property owners that we could include in the process because they don't own the
I'm not
property, so
familiar.
they haven't been developed
I
yet.
sit in my
But-
ward where
yeah.
there's nothing built.
So,
Nobody
so,
has
yeah,
empty lot yet.
so from that perspective, it's impossible to have a good representation of who this would impact down the line. And I do think the idea of kind of that but for having some infrastructure is one that deserves more looking into as a city that is unable to provide the infrastructure, but maybe perhaps there's a way we could collectively as a city drive some of that with a little more transparency on the front end, with the tax abatement and the front end with the intention of also capturing those taxes on the back end. So this is just an editorial comment,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that.
And as always comes up with abatement in this, if you, to collect taxes, you need someone to live there. So
Yep.
for someone to live there, you need to have something that is worth buying into and investing in, and that's where this comes. It's been down here 17 years, and I have 10-year abatements that have come to fruition, and my little ward is, we're collecting the 7th most real estate taxes in the city.
Thank you.
Without any downtown or anything large around us. Because what you have to do is give people a reason to move to the city. And I think that's the whole basics of this is, it's not about what's happening today, it's what's going to be happening in 10 years. It's what's going to be happening when I'm in my old folks' home somewhere, and hopefully in the city.
Hopefully in the city.
I've lived in the city all my
Close
life.
to Milo.
I still live within 5 blocks of the house I was raised in. So I don't plan on leaving ever unless my wife wants to take a trip around the world, but I'll still come back. But with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. to pass
Second.
Board Bill.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection, previous roll. We will pass Board Bill 18 with a due pass recommendation. Up next will be Alderman Mohammed's Board Bill 101. And
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, and since our budget director is currently unavailable, I would like to table Board Bill.
We're not tabling.
You don't
We're
want
not
to
tabling. Can we hold Board Bill?
we will hold Board Bill 101 until Mr. Payne is available, because as I discussed with Alderman before, I would definitely love to have the budget director present when we're discussing changing how we handle the budget.
Yeah.
With that, I'll thank the Purple Brothers for being color coordinated over there, and we will excuse the aldermen who are not present for necessary absence, which is Alderman Tamika Hubbard, Alderman Clark Hubbard, and Alderwoman Boyd. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.